Hello, everybody. Welcome. Welcome to live Q&A. This is the global community for adult survivors of childhood trauma, trauma in the form of abuse. If that is you, any type of abuse, you are welcome here. We have open discussion and live Q&A every single Monday, 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern. We've been doing that now for about 4 years right here. And you send in your questions in the chat box, and I do my best to answer them. We are all here to support one another. This is peer support. This is not a replacement for medical care, and this is not crisis support. So if you could do your best, if you are triggered, to step away and receive the crisis support that you deserve, that would be amazing. We have our amazing interns that are here helping. We have Matt, of course, who's here every single week, and that's at Matt Pappas. Or is it at Beyond Your Past? I never know, and I always mess it up. I'm so sorry. And then Poppy is here as well. And then thank you to Shannon, who's filling in occasionally when Poppy is out as well. Thank you to Lisa, who's welcoming people into our safe groups over on Facebook, the free support groups that we have. And just thank you. Thank you for being here. I have a fan on, and I have a feeling that I'm going to be pulling this hair out of my eye like for the next hour. So I tried to remember to turn off the fan above me, and I didn't remember, but that's okay. So I'm just going to get some water, and then we're going to get started. We're going to be talking about inner child work tonight. We're going to be talking about how younger parts might show up and the ways they communicate fear or anxiety, and the ways we can help to acknowledge that and have that happen less often if we are in fact adults living with CPTSD symptoms, which may include dissociation, and we may have unresolved childhood trauma. So one moment, I'm just going to get a drink of water. Can you hear my birdies outside? I have birdies outside that are speaking up. They want to be a part of the discussion. So we left off last week on a couple of questions. I believe we left off on Nexus, Jennifer, and Heroes Don't Wear Capes, and Sharon. So I only take questions until 30 minutes past the hour. Any questions asked after 30 minutes past the hour, and you got to come back another week, because there's no way, if I take all the questions that are asked after 30 minutes past the hour, then we will never, ever, ever finish. I actually did an experiment a few years ago with our channel, and it was just indefinite. Which is why we have a wait to get into some of the free groups as well. There are so many adult survivors of childhood trauma that are still living with their symptoms, that are still living like we are, where we struggle in our relationships, or we struggle with different maladaptive coping strategies like eating disorders or addictions, or we numb, we stuff, we avoid. Why are our relationships so difficult? Why are we struggling at work? Why are our finances a place where we struggle? Why do I have trouble with spiritual practices and other daily best practices? Why am I struggling with my children? Why am I struggling with my physical health? There are so many different aspects of our life that our childhood trauma, it actually touches, whether it touches the fringe on the outside edge, or whether it cuts deep, deep, deep to how we operate as adults on a daily basis. And if I allow questions to come in, for the first 30 minutes, we ask questions, and then any questions that come in within the first 30 minutes, then I do my best to answer them in the last 30 minutes. After that, then it's the next week, and then it's going to be on the next week's topic. So if I don't get to the questions that were asked after 30 minutes past the hour, then I'll just do my best, you guys. That's all. I'm like, it's taking me 15 minutes to say that I'm just going to do my best. Like, we're all just here hanging out, right? And I'm going to do my best to help you. So Nexus asked a question last week. When family talk about how great they are with their current family, I feel hurt, and I don't know And I don't want to know because they never provided that to me. So how do I cope with that? How to cope with how to cope with what is normal. So this happens a lot in our community. So what I think is being described here is there are extended family members, and they are perhaps posting pictures on Facebook or Instagram, or sending out the yearly like Christmas card with all these wonderful stories of all these wonderful things that are going on in their lives. And or it might even be our primary caregivers that we were raised with, and there's all this wonderful stuff going on in their life, and then here we are and we're adults and we're still struggling from stuff that went really awry and south and was very twisted and awkward and strange and abusive and horrible and neglectful and just dysfunctional 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60 years ago. And so now here we are, and we're seeing people talk about all this like perfect family memories, and then we're kind of struggling with that. A perfect example of this is when there are lots of television commercials going on, like around the month of May and June. It's like dads and grads, and many of us didn't get an opportunity to maybe go to college or pursue higher education because we were busy raising our parents or taking care of our parents, or our parents robbed us of that opportunity, or we were busy raising children during the time that other people were going to college, because perhaps we were moving out of the frying pan and into the fire, out of an abusive childhood situation into an abusive marriage when we were a teenager, only to find out that that was something that didn't last, and then it got difficult and we were in more abusive relationships for decades, until here we are and we're on YouTube and we're trying to figure out why life is so hard. So the dads and grads television commercials can be really, really, really painful for a lot of people. Another example is right around Mother's Day. There are a lot of people in our community who were raised by quote unquote narcissistic mothers. And those aren't just mothers that just think a lot of themselves. They're mothers that didn't care for their children. They were emotionally unavailable. They didn't meet the emotional needs of their children. They weren't compassionate. They weren't kind. They weren't patient. They didn't provide a solid, healthy upbringing. There are so many of us here on this channel that are living with self-esteem issues. We're struggling. We have tremendous fear and anxiety and paralyzing hypervigilance as a result of being raised by abusive, pathological, not just like thoughtless or unkind, but like overtly and covertly abusive family of origin. And if that's you, watching all these happy television commercials about moms and dads and grads, and then, you know, let's not forget about the winter holidays when all the television commercials come and all the families are celebrating with one another, and perhaps we're in a place of deep loneliness and we're struggling because we never had that soul connection with our family of origin, with our siblings, with our cousins, with our aunts, with our uncles, or maybe we just had one person that we actually connected with and maybe they passed away, or it's always something. Like there's just always, it's difficult, right? And my advice to you, Nexus, is to find ways. I know this sounds perhaps like a trite answer, but what has helped the majority of the people in our community is to find ways to start like a gratitude journal. Just find one thing that you're grateful for in the morning, and maybe find two things that you're grateful for in the evening. Start your day with gratitude, end your day with gratitude. Again, it sounds like a trite answer, but when you're surrounded by other people in our community that are struggling as well, and if we can hold each other accountable to try to find something that we're grateful for, it helps us to focus on what it is that we're grateful for rather than what it is that we don't have, since there's so much that perhaps we did without for so many years growing up. And just to be patient and kind with yourselves, you guys. If we can err on the side of self-compassion as much as possible, if we can err on the side of self-compassion when we are in the habit of condemning ourselves, or if we can err on the side of self-compassion when we compare ourselves to those television commercials, if we can find just a couple things that we're grateful for in our life now, even if those couple things are like YouTube videos and maybe a podcast, or maybe it's a blogger that just gets you, or maybe it's a friend that you might not see on a regular basis, but you keep in touch online, or maybe it's just the local crisis center that is there for you when you're struggling. Let's find something to be grateful for. And my last piece of advice for you, Nexus, is to find a friendly family of choice. I know that we talk a lot on this channel about family, about how our friends and family of choice sort of takes the place of or is a proxy for that family of origin that was lacking in compassion and love and patience and kindness and health. And if we can align ourselves with those who are similar to us and have similar goals and dreams, and who have perhaps lived a similar life but have similar goals of breaking free from what it is that holds us back in our past trauma. And I really hope that psychoeducation is something that you're counting as something that is a gratitude. The psychoeducational information that's available to us at our fingertips, there are literally millions, maybe even billions of videos available on YouTube. And that's not even counting all the podcasts available on iTunes, Stitcher, Spreaker, SoundCloud, iHeartRadio. These are places that you can simply type in one word of something that you're struggling with, and things will pop up that you can perhaps read or listen to or consume or watch or print out and put into a notebook, so that we can find ways to heal and move forward and not stay stuck. Because guess what? We could have stayed stuck 10, 20, 30, 40 years ago. We could have stayed stuck. We could have decided, this is all it's ever going to be. Why bother? Life's just going to suck. Might as well just accept it. But we're not. We're not. And the reason I know that we're not is because we're all here together every single week. You all post comments down in the comment section. You thumbs up the videos. You share them into playlists and in the groups that you're in. You forward them to people. I get emails from your therapists that are like, my client so-and-so told me about your resources, and that they watch your videos every week on the television, on Roku. And thanks for being there for my client. So I know that you guys have a couple things that you can be grateful for. But what I really want to address, which is the title of this video, is ways that our younger parts may be showing fear and anxiety, and gratitude. While that does help our adult self, things that we're grateful for, it's important that we acknowledge ways that our younger parts show up and show fear, depending on how old we are, right? And we can maybe recognize that that's not just us losing our mind or us going crazy or us being weird, but it's actually unprocessed childhood trauma that we may need to sit with or glance at or show compassion toward ourselves in the midst of. And so I'm just going to show you a blog post really quick, which I showed briefly last week. It's on a website called Hey Sigmund. The link is right down in the description section for you. We're going to glance at it really quick at some of the different ways that children, when they're growing up, they show fear and things that they are afraid of and why. And so if you're an adult and you're struggling with CPTSD symptoms where you're paralyzed and you have emotional flashbacks and you feel impending doom and you just don't have a lot of hope and you really just struggle to get through your to-do list, your relationships are difficult, you're struggling at work, your finances are struggling, all your relationships are struggling, then this is something that will help for us to glance at the ways that our younger parts or the unprocessed trauma from our childhood shows up. And then it's just a reminder for us to show compassion to ourselves in those moments, rather than just get impatient with ourselves and be like, nobody has time for this, and we move on. And then what ends up happening if we do that, if we just say, ain't nobody got time for this, and we move on because we're in the midst of something that we need to be adulting through, then what ends up happening if we don't just pause for a second and deal with that, or at least write it down and deal with it and sit with it later and process it later, then it shows up later on in our lives when we least want it to. at the least opportune time, it's going to show up. Like when we're cultivating that new relationship, or we're going out on a very first date, or we're going to our child's graduation, or perhaps a performance of theirs, or if our first grandchild is being born, or we're getting ready to buy our first house, or we're getting a job, a promotion at work, or we're looking for a new job, or maybe we're relocating. There's all these exciting big life events that happen. But if we don't sit with this fear and this anxiety that may be coming from a younger place, then it's going to paralyze us and stop us in our tracks, and we're going to struggle. We're going to struggle unnecessarily. So I just want to click over to that blog post, show you the different ways that some of our younger parts can show up and express fear, so that we can sit with that and be kind to ourselves in those moments rather than rush through them. And then I'll come back and I'm going to answer all of your questions. So thanks for bearing with me, you guys, as I sort of get to today's topic while going back to other questions as well from last week. Let me know if you guys can see the screen share okay. I think this is it. I think this is it. Let me know if you guys can see this okay. I hope you all can see that. Okay. Oh, good. You can see it. Awesome. So let me click over here. So this is the screen share that we did from last week. And it talks about what age you are and how younger parts, or how children express fear, and what it is that they express fear about. So for the next 7 minutes, I'm going to page through this, and then I'm going to go over and I'm going to answer your questions. So when we're looking through this list, look around, and it says here your child's age group. And what I would encourage us to do is think of perhaps what age we might have been when some things may have happened to us, or some of our big T trauma, perhaps, trauma that sticks out and that is very prominent in our lives, that tends to show up more often than not. And let's just sit with that and sort of glance at that age group. This goes on to say, humans are beautifully complicated beings, and human nature does not tend to stay inside the lines. The list is a guide to common fears during childhood and the general age at which they might appear. There are no rules, though. They might appear earlier or later. So what I encourage a lot of us to do on this channel, if we see something on this list, now remember, the link to this blog post, if you'd like to look at it, is down in the description section of this video. I encourage us to glance at this list and go, oh, I remember feeling those feelings. I remember being afraid of I get afraid of loud noises quite often, right? Or balloons bursting is something that I really struggle with. Whenever I hear a siren, it's something that it's not just it startles me, but I actually feel sick to my stomach. Or and what we do if we're adults who are living with the after effects of childhood trauma is we sit with, and we're patient with, and we sort of journal about what comes up for us. And if we remember or recall a feeling in our body that may be similar to this feeling, and if we have not thought about or processed with a trauma-informed therapist trauma that happened at this young age, or at the age group of the list, then maybe we could write about it, sit with it, talk about the physical feelings in our body that come up. We talk a lot about the physical feelings of our body on this channel because our brain, the neuroscience of trauma, and what neuroscience is talking about as it pertains to trauma these days, the most effective modalities are those that involve the body and the way the body experiences trauma. So here we had infants and toddlers ages 0 to 2. And it talks about strangers being separated from your parents, loud noises, and it talks about reasons why it's traumatizing. And it's really helpful if you could read through these things. I wonder if I can X out of this. Nope, it took me to an ad. I was just trying to X out of this Blue Sky Blue Burgers. I wonder what that even means. Like, I don't even have that near my house. That's strange. People in costumes. Does that type of thing scare you? Anything out of your control, like loud dogs, or if you hear a toilet flush, or if there's a thunderstorm? What types of things bother you or cause you an extreme amount of anxiety? I can't get rid of this ad, you guys. And now it's talking about Las Vegas, and I don't know why. It's just so weird. So then we're talking about preschool ages 3 to 4, lightning, loud noises. And then it talks again about all the different types of loud noises. Okay. Then it talks about things that they see on television, and then it mentions again people in costume, being separated from parents, and it talks about being afraid of the dark and being on their own at nighttime, particularly if they hear a strange sound. So again, if any of these things come up for you, then you can look back and go, I wonder, did I experience trauma at any of these young ages? Do I remember my family members telling me stories about something that happened to me? Like, I remember I used to get told all the time about a time that I was dropped. I was in a car seat and I was dropped like face first, and my tooth went through my lip and there was a lot of blood. And I remember thinking to myself, why are you telling me this story? Like, why do you tell this story over and over and over again whenever you see me? Like, it's just so disgusting and terrifying. Like, why are you doing that? But I know now it's because I have family members that are very sadistic and they love to see pain, and they live for that. So really twisted. But then ages 5 to 6, ghosts, the dark, moves on to ages 7 to 11, monsters, witches, ghosts, shadows on the wall at night, being home alone. Are any of these things some that show up for you and that trigger you into a place of panic? Are these things that you struggle with to this day as an adult? And is there any childhood trauma that you can recall or that anyone talks about that might be the reason for that? Being rejected is a big one here. Being not liked or judged badly. And then it says here, buckle up, this one might stay a while. So any trauma that happened between the ages 7 and 11, that can be one that comes up quite often. And then it talks about adolescence, ages 12 and up, and all the different types of trauma that may have happened or things that may show up in your life now. The way that our body sensations indicate fear or anxiety. This says what their peers are thinking of them, themselves or someone they care about getting hurt, becoming sick, or dying. I had a client that once struggled a lot with different feelings of illness. And if anything was ever going on with anyone in their family, they automatically thought that person was going to die. Or if they were feeling a certain way, they automatically thought that they're going to die. So that might sound silly to some, but it's definitely real, especially if when you were growing up, you didn't have someone to love you and care for you and to care about the fact that you weren't feeling well, or to care about you when you were sick. Did someone perhaps not care about how you were doing at school? Maybe the thought of your exams, or a fear of failure, fear of getting into college or university. Do you struggle with thoughts of maybe intrusive thoughts about strangers getting into your room? Do you struggle with intrusive thoughts about war, terrorism, being kidnapped, natural disasters, any catastrophizing thoughts? When you think a lot about illnesses for your body, like that you might be getting sick, that's called hypochondriasis. And then if you think a lot and worry a lot and spend a lot of your time ruminating about natural disasters or things that you can't control, that's catastrophic thinking. And here's one, talking about important personal issues. I have one particular colleague of mine who struggles to talk about anything personal, especially anything of a sexual nature. And this person was sexually abused when they were younger, when they were very, 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 very young. And so to this day, discussion of anything sexual, even though they're in their adult years, but they struggle to talk about anything or even consider the possibility that anything sexual could be going on in their life or in their mind. Fear of missing out, there's FOMO. And then this blog post, which again is from Hey Sigmund, great website, and it's linked right down in the description section, and it goes on and talks about what to do. Now, I have sat with this particular blog post and I've gone through and I've considered talking out and thinking about and journaling about these things that the website here tells you that you can do with your children. And I sat with each and every one of them, and there were a couple of them that came up for me pretty strongly and sort of triggered me because they weren't things that were ever done. Actually, almost none of them were ever done with me. But I wanted to show up for my younger self, and I wanted to be able to try to minister to my younger self. And it was something that I was really struggling to do, you guys. It was very triggering for me at the time. So please practice excellent self-care when you're moving forward with reading this blog post that's linked up below in the description section. Please just be really, really, really kind to yourselves when you are contemplating processing or reprocessing on your own away from a trauma-informed therapist, anything that has to do with inner child work, because it can be extremely triggering. And my goal here is not for you to ever feel triggered. So if you start to feel triggered, then please practice the grounding techniques that we've talked about on this channel. Practice the 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Find a way to ground yourself. Maybe get a drink of cold water. Maybe walk outside, feel the breeze. 5 things you see, 4 things you hear, 3 things you can touch, 2 things you smell, 1 thing you taste. And just go through that slowly, or just notice the color of your surroundings and just get back into your body, back into the here and now. If you feel yourself dissociating, avoiding, because this might be something painful. So, and then Poppy, of course, has over in the comment box, over in the chat box here during this video right now, if you click the button that says live chat, there is tons of not only conversation going back and forth that's supportive amongst every single one of our community members, but there's also crisis care information. If you're a survivor of rape, abuse, or incest, you can reach out to our friends over at RAIN. If you prefer texting, you can reach out to crisistextline.org. If you're contemplating suicide and you have a suicide plan, or if you're feeling like you want to die, reach out to the suicide prevention lifeline.org. There's a telephone number. If you're in a domestic violence situation, there's a telephone number. If you're living with addiction, if you're struggling with grief, if you're living with an eating disorder, depending on your eating disorder, all of the telephone numbers are in the chat box. And it's there for you. They're there for you. All of it is there for you. So please don't suffer in silence. Please get the help you deserve. I'm going to get out of this thing because all these ads keep popping up. This is why I don't go to certain websites. My goodness. Okay, that website is now gone with all of the ads and stuff. You know what's so creepy? Can I just pause off topic? What is so creepy, you guys? So I was on a telephone call this morning with one of my team members, and I briefly mentioned the word Las Vegas on the telephone this morning. And now on my computer, which was nowhere near me, nowhere. This was somewhere else in my car on the telephone. And now I'm sitting here on my computer several hours later, 9, 10, 11, 12, 1, 2, 7 hours later. And they're popping up ads for Las Vegas on my computer, not my phone, but my computer. But they're Apple products and they're all connected to one another. So anyway, I'm not normally a conspiracy theorist, but I'm sorry, but can we just talk about how creepy that is? That's a little bit creepy. I have not even been to Vegas in like 20 years. 20 years? 15 years. I haven't been to Vegas in 15 years. I do have a girlfriend that's from Las Vegas. But anyway, I don't even talk about Vegas. And this morning I was like, I randomly mentioned Las Vegas. And now there's an ad, 2 ads for Vegas on my computer. Can I just talk about how creepy that is for a minute? Okay, I know that's like random squirrel off topic, but come on, that's creepy. Is it creepy? Who's with me? Anybody? Someone out of the 40-something of you all can sense how creepy that kind of is. I'm going to get some water and then I'm going to answer your questions. Here we go. Question time, okay? Here we go. I want to say thank you to Shelly, Willow, Vi, Jennifer, Shannon, I Still Found Hope, Sparkle Girl 87, Desi Pink, Choose Love, and Sparkle Girl 87 again. Okay, so for the next 20, 25 minutes, questions are closed. Thank you for sending them in. So grateful for your questions. I'll do my absolute best to answer all of them. Shelly says, I've been healing for a couple years now, and I still use my ability to dissociate to tune out in bothersome situations. How long should I be able to count on this skill to remain? First of all, that is a skill. I love that you're identifying it as a strength. Because a lot of people, Shelly, struggle with, they just can't, like, in order to escape, they use drugs or alcohol or adrenaline seeking activities or some sort of like addictive, potentially very, 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 very harmful. And I'm not minimizing the fact that you dissociate, but we've talked about this on this channel before, and I want to bring this home for you, Shelly. There is a difference between dissociation or dissociative episodes that become dangerous and worrisome because we may harm someone, and dissociation or distraction as a coping strategy and as a means of self-care. So for instance, what I love to do, part of my dissociation that I sort of use as self-care or as a means to distract for self-care purposes, I love to sing, and I love musical instruments and learning how to play musical instruments. I used to play a lot of musical instruments when I was younger. And then I was told that that wasn't something that I needed to do or that I was going to be good at or that would take me anywhere, that I was just delusional or something. And so I sort of stopped. Even though I was really good and I sat first chair. So anyway, I sit back and watch YouTube videos of different types of musical instruments and tutorials. And I watch like cooking tutorials on how to cook certain things. And I watch makeup tutorials, even though I wear my makeup like exactly the same pretty much every single day. Rarely do I switch my makeup up. But I watch makeup tutorials. I watch cooking tutorials, music tutorials. And then, of course, I watch a lot of videos that are psychoeducational in nature, like learning about different types of. One of the things I think I dissociate the most on is watching videos and reading books and listening to podcasts and books on Audible on the topic of neuroscience, because the brain is what was damaged during our abuse. Yes, we feel it in our bodies remember, but we can access certain areas of our brain to tackle certain memories and to feel better and to not dissociate and to not struggle in life. And so I sort of nerd out on all that stuff. And for a while I did that, and I nerded out on like how to build websites and how to do graphic design. And like, it's almost like I focus on something and I master it, or I feel like I get good at it and then I move on to the next thing, you know? So I just want to encourage you, Shelley, that, you know, this type of thing that you do, it can be a positive thing. I love that you're recognizing it as a strength. I would say that you're always going to be able to do that. You can choose to sort of zone out a little bit for as long as you like. It's not going to just disappear. It may not be as easy if you have unpredictable dissociation. Like if all of a sudden you realize, wow, what have I been doing for the last 7 hours? You know, then that might not last a long time if you're on a healing journey and you're looking to heal from all of your childhood trauma. And so if you're healing from all your childhood trauma, then, and you're continually healing, then you might not dissociate for several hours at a time. But I would say you can choose to take care of yourself and just do those sort of dissociative sort of activities as often as you like as a means of self-care. You're not just going to lose that. You're not going to lose the opportunity to do that. Hopefully that was helpful. Willow says, how do you, through emotional flashbacks, if dissociated? Is it possible? I don't know which comes first, the flashback or the dissociation. Let me sit back and think about this here for a sec. How do you, I think it's maybe how do you move through emotional flashbacks if you're dissociated? So dissociation, there are people that believe different things about dissociation. I believe that certain levels of dissociation are an emotional flashback, because it is simply your body's way of flashing back to a time that it did something specific to stay alive. And so I do believe that dissociation in and of itself is one form of an emotional flashback. That's my belief. There is a great course that Richard Grannon put together called How to Stop an Emotional Flashback. And there's also another resource that he put out on emotional literacy. And I'll tell you this, emotional literacy and emotional intelligence is like the key to figuring out all this stuff. And I don't mean it's like a one and done, like, okay, I'll just get really emotionally literate and then I will never have a flashback again. That's not what I mean. But I do mean that if we are emotionally literate and we can describe what it is that we're feeling in many different words, and we catalog those words, and we track what it is that causes us to feel certain ways, then through emotional literacy and physical movement or grounding and grieving, simply processing what we wish was different. Grieving is simply addressing and accepting what we wish was different, glancing at, sitting with what we wish was different. So if you have emotional literacy, being able to name what it is that you're feeling, the names of the different feelings, and keeping track of those and when they show up and why, and like you start to notice patterns on certain days of the week or around certain people or around certain smells, or when you hear a certain sound or when you're in a certain place, right? Plus physical movement, increasing happy chemicals into your brain, like maybe cardiovascular exercise or any type of bilateral movement, maybe going for a walk, riding a bicycle, plus breathing addressing, sitting with what we wish was different. And then you add in what we talk about like every single week on this channel for 4 years, establishing and maintaining healthy boundaries with all toxic people in our lives, and cultivating safe relationships, then all of this goes away. It's a multi-pronged approach, but it works. So your specific question about the flashbacks and being dissociated and which comes first, I do believe the flashback is a form of dissociation, or dissociation is a form of a flashback. Sorry. that's what I believe. And when I look at it that way, I don't know, I've been able to heal, and a lot of people have been able to heal. So, but I highly recommend, Willow, that you look in, just Google how to stop an emotional flashback, and you'll see a course or a book or some sort of resource pop up that is by Richard Grannon and Layla Lorick, Leylaloric, and Richard Grannon. Super excellent. Highly recommend. Vi says, hi, Athena. Hi, Vi. My little remembers being left alone a lot, and the fear is losing people I love. I dissociate with loss, and I struggle with finding better ways to deal with it. Ooh, that's a hard one. Dealing with loss and dealing with death is a really difficult thing. And I have tried over and over and over and over and over to schedule in my calendar and plan self-care time for myself to sit with loss and grieving. And for some reason, it doesn't work. I need some sort of a catalyst. And so what I did, Vi, I want you to Google something, okay, Vi? I might be able to send it to you. But there's this gentleman who works at a place called the Sophia Clinic. I think his name is Zach. Is it Zach? I think his name is Zach. He's a doctor. He works at a place called the Sophia Clinic. Anyhow, he has a resource on his website called Conscious Crying. And right now, for a limited time, the resource is free. It's a free resource. He sells resources on his website. Ooh, I might have the website here. Let me just look up the website super duper duper fast so that everyone here can benefit from this. Oh, come on. This gentleman's name. Zachary, Zachary, Fetter, F like Frank, E, D like David, ER. And I believe it's called Conscious Crying. Essentials of Conscious Crying digital download. And it's like a 20 or 30 minute lesson or audio book on intentionally finding your way that helps you bring up. It's for anyone who struggles to cry. In fact, I was going to send this to one of my team members, to a colleague of mine, especially because this guy's a dude and he's pretty amazing, but I haven't sent it yet. But I went through I did the audiobook, and it was actually very helpful. And And it's helped me. But sometimes we schedule time on our calendar to sort of grieve things and to feel all of our feels because we want to heal. And the best laid plans are not what ends up working out for us sometimes. And it can be really, really, really disappointing because we know we have this pent up feeling, this pent up emotion, this pent up grief, and or even fear of loss, fear of losing someone. And if we're unable to access that feeling because we tend to dissociate, because that's what we did, because the feelings we were feeling growing up would have killed us, and so our brain protected us and caused us to dissociate. And then now if we're living in a time in our lives when we're not particularly safe, or there's a lot of, stressful things going on in our life, then our body and our brain might still try to protect us and keep us from feeling these feelings. So the best we can do is to get some sort of a primer, or to get some sort of a catalyst that will help us feel the feelings that we need to feel so that we can heal. And before anybody sends me any hate mail, I'm not asking you to trigger yourself. I'm not asking you to get into a place where you're unwell. But what I am suggesting is numbing, stuffing, and avoiding our feelings, especially when younger parts show up and they show us fear and anxiety, and they scream and they yell and they're loud and they take over, and we feel like we're unable to adult, and we don't really know why they're doing it, and we don't know what we can do, and we don't have time for this. We didn't sign up for this. It is worth the energy and the time for us to spend time sitting with those younger parts that we have, those younger unprocessed traumatic memories that we have. It shouldn't be our responsibility now, because that responsibility belonged to someone else who failed, which is why we're here on this YouTube channel. So if we want to really become those healthy people in our lives that perhaps we didn't have when we needed them, then one of the first things we must do is sit with those younger, early traumatic childhood memories and be really patient and listen and sit and journal, or do something kind, or do something that feels younger than you would normally do, just so we can be those healthy people for ourselves that perhaps we didn't have, because we deserve that. And if no one's going to do it for us, which by the way, they're not, no one's coming. No one's coming. No one's coming to rescue me. I have to rescue me. The people who were supposed to rescue me back when I needed to be rescued failed. They chose not to rescue me. They chose to either abuse me or let the abuse happen. No one's coming. I'm an adult now. So if I don't do this for myself, then I simply repeat the pattern and end up just like them, or institutionalized somewhere because I didn't show up for myself. So I'm going to show up for myself. I feel like I owe it to myself and to my son and my daughter-in-law and my husband and my future grandchildren, and to all of you who show up here and watch these videos, and to my entire community of people that show up every single day to participate in healing calls and to participate in a healing journey that they desperately need and deserve. So it's hard to do, Vi, but it's so worth it. Thank you all for the excellent questions. Jennifer says, when my child comes out, she really doesn't want to go back in. It can be a week or so sometimes, and it takes a really big event, like if my car breaks or if I lose my job, to bring me back into executive functioning. That is a really difficult place to be in. And what that tells me, Jennifer, is that, first of all, great awareness on your part, because not everybody is able to even recognize when something like this is even happening. They just deny that it happens. They're just like, what? There's nothing going on here. I'm fine, So great awareness on your part, and great way, like, I'm glad you're acknowledging it, that it's actually happening. I want to encourage you to intentionally plan those times to check in with yourself on a regular basis to see if there's anything that your body needs. Maybe just a time in the morning for 60 seconds. Maybe it's while you're sitting in your car, you start the car, you put your seatbelt on, and you just tell yourself that for 30 seconds to 60 seconds, you're going to sit with yourself and you're just going to check in. You know, you're going to feel the top of your head, your neck, your shoulders, down your left arm, down your right arm. Feel your fingers on both your hands. Swallow, feel your throat. Maybe take a deep breath, focus on the breath. Experience the sensation of air going through your nostrils. Put your hand on your stomach, like on your belly, and feel as you inhale your belly expand and go back down. And then feel for your vertebrae or anything going on with your back. Just acknowledge it. Feel where you are sitting in your car. Feel your hips, your legs, your thighs, your knees, going all the way down to your toes. Maybe just wiggle, maybe move. And maybe just a moment to be grateful that you are able, if you are able-bodied. If you're not able-bodied and you're struggling with some physical disabilities, just acknowledging how powerful and amazing it is that you are still able to do the things that you are able to do, regardless of any disabilities. You know, there's a lot going on in the world right now. There's a lot of prejudice going on. There's a lot of conflict and ableism and ageism and feminism and all these different, you know, there's misogyny over here, there's feminism over here, there's all this radical stuff going on. And if we can just silence out all of that for just a moment as we get into our car, or as we sit at our desk, or as we wake up in the morning, or whatever it might be, and just acknowledge our body, check in with our body and see what our body needs, I would be willing to bet you, Jennifer, that your younger parts, your unprocessed childhood trauma, which I use interchangeably, the language I use on this channel, if I say younger parts or child parts, I'm talking about unprocessed childhood trauma. I use those two terms interchangeably. I would be willing to bet that they show up less often and that they last or less often. What this indicates is that perhaps you are in a rushed rhythm that leaves no time for you to check in with yourself, which you do deserve. You do deserve to check in with yourself. So I hope that was helpful. Shannon says, I so appreciate my inner preschool child. She knew the real deal and she was appropriately angry. I've not been able to reconnect with her. I think she's afraid of second parts of me since I'm an adult. How can I win her trust? Ooh, I think in similar ways that I just described to Jennifer would be a perfect way just to check in and sort of like feel your body and just acknowledge. And, you know, you could even just pause and listen and focus on your breath, or, you know, show some gratitude. A wonderful way that has been really effective to access younger parts and to do inner child work with other modalities that are like trauma modalities and expressive modalities. Two things come to mind, Shannon. There's water paints or watercolors, non-dominant hand watercolors, where you use your opposite hand. If you're normally right-handed, then use your left hand. If you're normally left-handed, use your right hand. And find something that you want to paint, or just let the brush do whatever it wants to do. And there are no mistakes. Just see what you end up drawing, whatever comes up for you. Or touching clay, like wet, slimy clay. Anything that's wet and slimy, wet and pliable, wet and sticky. Yeah. Those sensations are, our younger parts are accessed when those types of things are used. So let me know. I would love to hear. Seriously. I Still Found Hope says, I haven't spoken to my mom in 5 years. My sister mentioned to me that my mom said about me, I love you so much and I think about you every day. My defense is to say that I hate her, but I don't. I also feel my dissociation makes me less present to my own children. Oh, that's hard. So you haven't spoken to her in 5 years. Is there a reason that you haven't spoken with her in 5 years? Is she pathological? Is she narcissistic in nature? Is she dark triad? Is she dark tetrad? Is she abusive? Was she abusive? Is she toxic? It takes a lot for a daughter to not speak with their mother in 5 years. It takes a huge, something happened. I would be willing to bet you didn't just like, I'm just not going to talk to her. There had to be something that happened. And the fact that she says she mentioned it to your sister leads me to believe that your sister doesn't even know it, but she's a flying monkey. Your sister's a flying monkey right now and doesn't even know it, maybe. Because what you've described is called triangulation. Your mother's talking to someone else about someone else. So see, there's 3. Up here is the mom, here is the sister, here is you. Mom could be talking to you, but you're not talking to mom. Mom knows that you talk to sister. Sister knows that you don't talk to mom. And so mom tells sister something and sister tells you something so that sister can get your response and then go back and tell mom. So there's just a triangle. There's just a triangle, a repeated triangle going on, triangulation. And this is a common theme in toxic, abusive families. So regarding your dissociation, making you feel less present to your own children, that is really, really, really difficult. I encourage you to sit with that, acknowledge what may have happened, what may be causing them distress, any unprocessed childhood trauma that you haven't had an opportunity to sit with and look at. Listen to your body. All of you. I Still Found Hope, Shannon, Jennifer, Vi, Willow, Shelly, all of you. Google trauma-informed resources or trauma-informed dissociation resources, something. And there is so much information that you can find. There are practitioners out there that specialize, who are trauma-informed and specialize in helping work through inner child issues. And many of them are quite affordable. Many of them offer Skype. Sometimes when it's inner child work, they prefer to be face-to-face. But, and then please keep coming back here. Please, please, please keep coming back. I mean, we've all been together for so long. And, you all deserve to heal. We all deserve to heal. I'm so glad that we're all here together. You guys are the most important part of this community. I really just encourage us to sit with what we wish was different. Let us sit with what we wish was different. If anger comes up, let it come up. If sadness, deep, soul-crushing sadness comes up, let it come up. Acknowledge it. Sit with it and be very, 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 very kind to yourselves. So many of us didn't have anyone to be kind to us when we were younger. So many of us felt all alone and like no one cared. And the fact that we can all be together now and sit with one another every week and talk, it's amazing. I love interacting with you all. And I just hope that we'll all sit with what we wish was different and check in with our bodies and write this stuff down. Journal. Maybe I'll create a journal. So that I can mail you all some journals. We all need to just commit that we're going to be journaling. You know what I'm saying? Sparkle Girl 87 says, is it possible for the child parts to come out during intimacy? It absolutely is possible, especially if you were sexually abused as a child. Were you talking about sexual intimacy or were you talking about sexual intimacy or were you talking about another form of intimacy? But your child parts can definitely come out during sexual intimacy if you were sexually abused as a child. It is absolutely possible. And it can make sexual intimacy feel terrifying because sexual intimacy to a child is abuse, and it's terrifying and it's foreign and it's confusing because it feels good, but does it really feel good? And it hurts, but does it really hurt? And then it's different and it's weird, and all of a sudden the person's gone. And if we're a child, we are the other and they are us. And if they're gone, does that mean that we're gone? There's a piece of us that only exists through the sexual intimacy. Where did that piece go? It's trauma, it's abuse, it's painful, but is it painful? And it's so confusing. So it's important to sit with that and to acknowledge how scary and painful that may have been, and to talk with a trauma therapist about stuff like this, because it is terrifying and bewildering to process childhood sexual trauma as an adult without the help of a trauma-informed practitioner. It is devastatingly difficult and terrifying and debilitating and frightening and paralyzing, and it prolongs the healing process if we don't talk with someone who's trauma-informed. So I hope that is helpful. John Harvey, I didn't even say thank you earlier to you, John Harvey. Thank you for sending in your question, and thank you to Angela M. I don't think I mentioned both of you, but I see your questions here. I hope that was helpful, Sparkle Girl. John Harvey says, my brain doesn't want me to know any part of my abuse. How do I get my younger parts to accept things that I can't even remember? This is a two-part question, John Harvey. So part one is, my brain doesn't want me to know any part of my abuse. True, because your brain is trying to protect you. Because your brain doesn't think that you're in a place right now where you could actually deal with it. That's one possibility, although I don't know everything. And then John Harvey goes on to say, how do I get my younger parts to accept things that I can't even remember? This is the key. It's not our job to make our younger parts accept things that we can't remember. It is our job to provide a safe place for younger parts to come if they're feeling afraid or confused or bewildered or terrified or angry or happy or joyful, or like they want to do cartwheels, or like they want to run and hide, or like they want to cry, or like they want to bake cookies or paint things or play with clay or pet dogs or go for a walk or fly a kite or go in the water and swim. All these different things. It's our job. It's never our job to get them to accept things that we can't remember. It is our job to just be that strong adult for them who never was, if we didn't have a strong adult. So it might just be, John Harvey, that your brain has decided that you're not ready to remember things, and that's totally okay. The safer and safer and safer you become, which means that the safer and safer and safer your environment becomes, then the more willing your younger parts will be to come to you and to share who they are, what they're about, what they need. And then in the meantime, you just listen to your body. If something feels safe, great. If someone's toxic, keep them away from you. If something feels scary, take care of yourself. Sit with what you wish was different. Create safe environments for yourself. And try not to isolate completely. Try to get out of the house as much as you can, even if it's just once a day. And do things that are guaranteed to go well, like go to the bank, ask to make a deposit, or go to the market and ask to buy a sandwich, or go to Starbucks and ask to buy a coffee, or go to the gas station and pay and then pump gas. Things like that, things that are guaranteed to go well. Nothing's guaranteed, but things that you feel safe doing on your own, And then as your world becomes safer, John Harvey, your anxiety level will decrease. And as things come up that you wish were different, sit with those and be that strong, compassionate person that maybe you didn't have. So you can calm the fears of the younger parts of you that may be showing up. Be that strong, safe person for them. I hope that was helpful. Angela says, how do I know if I'm practicing self-protection or just reacting to my triggers by pushing away or escaping? Ooh, this is a good question, Angela. So if we're practicing self-protection, then there's going to be an element of peace about it. Like, okay, in order for me to feel safe, I'm going to protect myself. In order to protect myself, I'm going to do the following. I'm going to do A, B, C, and X, Y, Z. Then when the time comes, I will feel safer. So it's more proactive than reactive, if that makes any sense. That's one way. And a second way is if something comes at you or something happens in your life, if you're able to pause for a moment and think, check in with your body, and respond rather than have something come at you or happen to you and then you react. So there's responding versus reacting. Does that make sense? Does that help? I hope that helps. If we're triggered into a trauma response, and you said pushing away or escaping, so that's a flee, right? That's a flee trauma response, as per Pete Walker. Then we may need to take some preemptive measures to guarantee to our younger ones in any way that we can, any unprocessed childhood trauma that may be trying to manifest itself in adulthood as a form of hypervigilance or safety seeking. We have safety seeking behaviors, right? I've been reading this book. Oh, it's in the other room. Otherwise, I would show it to you. It's called Rewire Your Anxious Brain, using the neuroscience of fear and anxiety, or you using the neuroscience of anxiety to calm your brain of like fear and worry and stress, right? And so is that the book I was listening to regarding safety seeking behaviors? Or was it a different book? I have this other book that I've been reading called It's Not Always Depression by Hillary Jacobs Hendel. It talks about the change triangle. One of them talks about safety-seeking behaviors. And so I'm pretty sure that this is Rewire Your Anxious Brain, because we don't want to teach our amygdala that running away or pushing away or escaping, we don't want to reward our amygdala for pushing away or escaping. We want to use exposure to things that could be potentially stressful or anxiety inducing, and sit with the feeling that may feel uncomfortable or intolerable. And we're building up our distress tolerance skills, as we talk about in dialectical behavior therapy. And we prove to our amygdala that we lived through this thing that our amygdala had a lot of anxiety about. And it talks about safety-seeking behaviors. And when the gal on the audiobook was talking about safety-seeking behaviors, I had every single one of them. Like, I think one of them was like looking for exits, making sure you know where the exits are. I think one of them was wearing sunglasses. One of them may have been wearing earbuds. All these different, there's a list of safety-seeking behaviors, which are ways that I push away or escape to keep myself safe. And I had every single one on the list. Every safety-seeking behavior on the list, I had it. And that's not something that I want. I want to be able to build my distress tolerance skills. show up in the world as though I'm safe because I have the ability to create safety in my life because I'm a grown adult and I'm not a child anymore. But there's something that must be coming up for me, and I just need to sit with it and be like, why does this feel unsafe? Why do I feel the need to wear sunglasses and listen to earbuds and look for the exits? Right? So just be patient with yourself, Angela. Please be kind. Be kind to yourself. And the way you can know about self-protection versus just reacting is, there will be an element of peace about it. You'll feel at peace when you're doing something for yourself, and you'll feel better afterwards as well. So I hope that was helpful. Desi Pink says, my mother has DID, dissociative identity disorder. And as a child, I was responsible for caring for her younger personalities. I feel anxiety talking to my younger versions of myself because I don't want to be anything like her. I have issues with her unrelated to DID. How can I reparent myself without letting my fear of being like her hijack my trauma work? Oh my goodness. It's so interesting that you should mention this, Desi. Seriously. So my mother was severely mentally ill. She talked a lot about Thorazine and other types of drugs, and it was very toxic. There were a lot of drugs going on, a lot of crazy abuse. And I too was responsible for caring for her. She would often tell me I was the designated adult in the relationship, even when I was younger. And I too struggle with my own trauma work because I don't want to be anything like her. And I too have issues with my mother unrelated to the fact that she was mentally ill. And I too am struggling to reparent myself without my fear of being just like her hijacking my trauma work. So I might be the wrongest person in the room, the wrongest person in the world to ask this question to, or I might be the right person to ask because I'm living through this right now. So I haven't figured it all out yet, Desi, but I'm with you. And what I can say is that I'm working with an excellent trauma therapist who understands everything that you listed and the dynamic of that. And I don't know if this is true with you, Desi, but I look just like my mother. Like I'm a carbon copy of my mother. We have the same body. We have the same hands. We have the same shape of body parts. We have the same face. We have the same hair. We have the same color eyes. We have almost everything is the same. Like, and so in addition to me having this feeling of not wanting to be like her because she was abusive and exploitative and sadistic and psychopathic, and she's a drug addict and an alcoholic, and she just is just not healthy, and she refuses to become healthy, partly because perhaps she's mentally ill, and people that are mentally ill malignantly, personality disorder, don't think there's anything wrong with them. And they don't want to take the steps that they need to take to get healthy and to do the things. They'll just say, oh, it's not working. And then they'll just give up and they'll just move on and just still be toxic. And so I think I want to tell you, Desi, that I want you to work with a really, really, really excellent trauma therapist who understands the nuances and the dichotomy of, here I am working on myself. Here I am doing my trauma work. Here I am being proactive. Here I am doing the things I know I'm supposed to do. Here I am wanting to reparent myself. Here I am doing all the right things. But I'm so terrified that I'm going to end up just like her. And then there's this evil whisper in our ear. I don't know if this happens to you, Desi, but it happens to me. And it's like, whose DNA do you think is flowing through your veins, Athena? I mean, look at you. You are her. So why do you even bother? But I just want to encourage you to not buy into the lie. because I'm making progress. I am healing. I have small pockets of safety, which I believe are turning into bigger pockets of safety. And I have the ability to create safety in my life, and my worth and my value and my safety are not in question. I am safe. I am valuable. I'm a human being. I have worth. I don't need to hustle for my worth and earn the right to breathe oxygen and apologize for my existence because I was wished dead more times than I care to admit or remember. And I need to know that it was her and their mental illness and dysfunction and toxicity and twistedness that made them say and do all those horrible things to me, and that it doesn't define me. And that is hard. I'm not telling you that this is going to be easy, but I am telling you that it's going to be worth it. And before I turn into a puddle of tears on camera, I'm going to move on to the next question, but I just want you to know you're not alone, because you described something very specific and your struggle is very specific. And every word that you have written has pinged me deep in the solar plexus, because I could have written every word of this. And I can only imagine how devastating and painful it was for you to even type this question out. It takes courage and vulnerability and strength to ask this question. And I promise you, as I continue to figure it out in trauma therapy through things like EMDR and somatic experiencing and different expressive modalities, and just there's even, I mean, there are other trauma modalities that I haven't even embarked upon yet, but I'm figuring this stuff out. If it's the last thing I do, I will die, Desi, and all of you who are with me right here, I will die trying. I'm not giving up. I will die whenever trying to figure this out, the answer to your question, because that's what I'm working through. And the only difference between where I was when I first had this question and where I am today is that it doesn't plague my every thought, keep me awake at night, keep me from eating healthy, keep me from hydrating, and keep me from having healthy relationships and healthy finances and healthy spiritual practices and healthy relationship with my physical body. And it doesn't take over my life anymore. But I am right here with you. Like, I'm working through it. It's a process. So thank you for the excellent questions, you all. There are 2 more questions. I know I'm way over time, so if you got to go, you got to go. It's all good. Choose Love says, how can I validate childhood traumas when my adult self is too afraid to identify with them? That's hard. Your fear is valid. Your fear is valid. Unprocessed childhood trauma is a terrifying thing to address. And one of the main reasons it is a terrifying thing to address, Choose Love, is because we have this inner body sensation and inkling and suspicion that if we touch it, that it will take us over. It will engulf us completely, and we will just either die or we will weep in the corner, rocking ourselves for like 6 months. And I want you to know that it's natural. If anything I just said rung any bells for you, I want you to know it's natural and common to have that fear that we may die or end up in a corner rocking ourselves for 6 months if we truly fall face forward into the trauma and allow it to consume us. It's natural to be afraid to do that. But paradoxically, if we choose to surrender to the fear and the grief and the tears and tell ourselves that we're willing to rock ourselves in the corner for 6 months if necessary, if it will save our lives, it only ends up happening for like an hour max. I'm living proof. I am. It takes a long time to get to a place where you can create a safe enough place for yourself where you're like, okay, all right, we're going to do this. I'm going to go to the website with the guy. What's his name? I just had it here. I'm going to go to the guy, Zachary Feder. Is that it? Zachary Feder, Feder, with the Sophia Institute. And I'm going to download his free resource titled The Essentials of Constant Crying. And it's free right now. And I'm going to do what it says to do. And I am going to allow myself to be completely consumed by this wave of grief and tears that I think may never come. But even if it never comes, at least I've created that safe space for myself. And then if it means that I end up in a corner rocking myself for 6 months, at least I didn't die. And if I die, at least I died trying to heal, because I'm worth it. So I don't know if that was helpful or if that was like the antithesis of helpful, but I promise you that when we are willing to fall face first and surrender to the grief and the pain and the fear, sometimes those feelings that we've been afraid of all along and all those things that manifest themselves in unprocessed childhood trauma or younger parts, sometimes they just need to be felt. These are just things that are unfelt. They've been waiting in queue for their number to be called. And then when their number is called, they're like, I'm here. Kind of like when you go to the DMV or the post office and you do your thing and you're like, you leave and you're like, gosh, okay. Like, I was really stressed out about that, but I'm done. All right. Like, there is a chance that it will end up just like that. And unless we trust our adult selves enough to know that we can handle it, we'll probably never get there. And the way we learn to trust ourselves, our adult selves, is by healing our intuition through congruence. And the way we do that is showing up in the world in a way that is congruent and in line with our core values, making sure that every connection we make, every word we speak is in line with our core values. Every thought that we think is in line with our core values. Every relationship we have is in line with our core values. There's no duplicitousness. There's no fear. There's no something out of alignment like, well, I'll align myself with this person over here, even though I know they're kind of shady, but my core values say that I'm about this, but that's okay. I don't want to hurt their feelings, so I'll just stay in contact with them. And so, see, that's not congruent. There's an incongruence there. We know we have these particular core values. We think this way. We believe that way. We want to talk this way. We want to walk our walk. We want to talk our talk. We want to be this person that we envision ourselves to be. But then we compromise and we allow ourselves to stay in touch with people that may not be the healthiest people because we don't want to hurt their feelings, or we have an internal no, but we say yes anyway. And that's boundaries. Like, that's boundaries 101. Your internal answer needs to match your external answer. That's boundaries 101. So it's a healthy boundary for me to finally say no to that person or cut off the friendship with that particular person that isn't in line with something that I believe in. I'm not saying be this weird, legalistic, rude person trying to conform people to your way of thinking. But I'm saying that if something is against what you believe in and you've been compromising yourself and saying yes to things that you really wanted to say no to, or you stay in touch with this person even though you know they make you feel insignificant and disgusting and dirty and ugly and fat and gross and like you just want to die. Like maybe the time has come. Maybe this video is like a divine intervention in your life, and it's time for you to say, you know what, no more. I'm not going to stay in touch with those people that cause me to feel bad about myself. I'm not going to stay in touch with people and communicate with people and text them and email them and see them and meet up with them and connect with them on Facebook and share their posts and go to Thanksgiving and Christmas dinner and birthday parties and baby showers and bachelor parties, when they're just not the type of people that I want to be around, because they make me feel disgusting and gross and fat and insignificant and weird and like I just want to die. Like maybe it's time that we don't say yes to things that we really want to say no to. Maybe it's time. And then maybe then our younger parts won't be afraid of us. Maybe our younger parts are afraid of us because we're scary to them. And they just want us to be someone that they can trust and snuggle up to or look at or reach out to, or someone who's going to care about them or do what's right by them. It's a possibility. Sparkle Girl says, my little self varies. Is that normal? Normal is a setting on a washing machine, darling. Normal doesn't exist. Is it common? Is it common for your younger selves to vary? It is common for your younger selves to vary if you have multiple unprocessed childhood traumas where there's been fragmentation or splitting going on when you were younger at different ages. Traumatic events happening, multiple traumas that perhaps you've never met with a therapist, a trauma therapist with, someone who's trauma informed, someone who can provide a safe place, someone who could help you feel more integrated and as though you're whole and safe and able to handle not only what's going on in the world around you present day, but process what may have happened a long time ago, perhaps. That's one possibility of why your little self would vary. Although I will be the first to admit that I am not an expert on dissociative disorders. No, no, no. I am not the expert. You want to know what I am an expert in? Compassion. I'm an expert in showing up in a compassionate way to the people that I feel called to show up for and to minister to and to be there for and to show compassion towards. And you all just happen to be them. I feel like I'm an expert at this. I forget what like quote unquote expert status means. I think it means like 10,000 hours or something. So maybe I'm not an expert at this because I haven't been doing it for 10,000 hours, but pretty close. Like even when I'm not like recording a video to post up on a YouTube channel, the rest of my hours and minutes are spent showing up in a compassionate way for many of you who are on our daily support calls, many of you who are private clients, many of you who are in some of our free groups. My husband, I show up in a compassionate way for my husband, my friends, my son, my daughter-in-law, my cousins, my family, my friendly family of choice. So, but I'm not an expert on dissociative disorders. But what I am an expert in is figuring out a way to heal from complex trauma, what works and what doesn't work, finding ways that work, and just being that safe person for many of you that maybe you didn't have. I am a professional expert mama bear and flying monkey spotter. I can spot flying monkeys from like a mile away. I can instantly, in body. When a flying monkey contacts me and tries to suck me into some triangulation drama nonsense, I'm just like, yeah, I see you. So I am an expert at spotting flying monkeys, and I'm an expert mama bear, and I hope to be an expert grandma someday in the future. Definitely not an expert wife. That is for shizzle. My son knows that I'm not an expert mother, but I'm doing my best to be an expert mother. I'm being the best I can. But yeah, I hope this was helpful for you guys. I really do. We went way over today. We went 30 minutes over. And, but I'm okay with that because you guys are worth it. You're worth it. And please share this video if you think it might be helpful for someone. And remember, we have to outweigh the thumbs downers because those thumbs downers are going to come in droves. They're just going to be like, who is this girl and why isn't she on topic? And they're going to like thumbs down the video. But every time you guys choose to do a thumbs up on the video, these videos and all the other videos on the channel get put into people's suggested video feed. And so more trauma survivors that are Googling terms about healing CPTSD and complex trauma and various forms of childhood maltreatment, they find the videos and then they get to come and they get to hang out with us every Monday. And then they get welcomed into free safe groups, which, by the way, if you would like to get welcomed into a free Facebook group, please contact Lisa at cptsdfoundation.org and let her know you would like to heal in safe community, or you can just click on the About section of this YouTube channel and it will tell you what to do. If you would like to be a part of our daily recovery support calls, which is affordable care for all trauma survivors all over the world, then you can go to cptsdfoundation.org and you can click on daily calls and read all about it because it's like my legacy, my life's mission to do that. And I'm so excited that it's actually like happening. And it has been almost 3 months that we've been doing it now. So, one of my team members just messaged me. So I am going to have to go. And I have a client call in an hour and 20 minutes. But I want you guys to know something, okay? When our younger parts show up, when a younger version of ourselves shows up and sort of spoils the party and like ruins your day, do your best to picture a little child in the office at school waiting to be picked up because something bad has happened to them. And they don't have anybody else to pick them up but you. You're the one. You're the one who is coming to pick them up from the office at school because no one else is going to come for them. And imagine if that little child was left alone in the office at school and nobody cared to come pick her up. And all the staff in the office, the principal and the vice principal and all the guidance counselors and the secretary and all the other people and the student aides, they're all going home for the day. And this poor little child is just there in her very, very, very favorite red Holly Hobby dress. And no one is coming because they don't care about her. Or maybe you're a boy and you're in your very, very, very favorite pair of jeans and shirt and your very favorite shoes, whatever, when you were that age, but no one's coming. Just remember that the compassion and the kindness that we show those younger versions of ourselves is what we really needed. And we didn't get it. And that's the whole reason why we find YouTube channels like this. And so I know what that feels like. Maybe you know what that feels like. No one's coming. No one's coming to rescue us. We have to rescue those little ones. And we need to find a way to create space in our lives, create margin, create healthy boundaries, cultivate safe relationships, create time and space to just address the needs that they have. And just think before you go, think about this. How long will it take for me to go out of my way to go drive over to the office to pick her up? She's been sitting there for so long by herself. No one's talking to her. She's thirsty. She's hungry. She's all alone. She feels awkward. Everybody just walks around her and does their thing. And no one's coming because no one cares. How long is it really going to take me to drive out of my way, to pull up to the school, to walk in, to sign the papers and do all the thing that I got to do, and to just welcome her and come here, give me a hug. It's okay. I'm so sorry you've been sitting here for so long. I'm sorry I didn't come sooner. You must be hungry. You deserve better. You must be hungry. You must be thirsty. Let's go get something to eat together. Let's go get your favorite drink and your favorite food, and let's just sit and talk, and you can tell me all about it, and I'll just hold you if you want me to just hold you, because you're sitting here and you're sitting in the office for all this time, and you must be bored and sad and feeling all kinds of different ways. Don't be sorry. It's okay. Like, we'll get through this together. You know? It's hard, you guys. It's hard because we know what it's like to not be wanted or to not have someone care. And it does take time out of our daily lives and our schedule to minister to the needs of those younger versions of us that are afraid. But it's worth it. It's worth it. Totally worth it. So I don't know how many of you are still here. It's way after. But thanks for showing up. Thanks for showing up for yourselves tonight. Thanks for showing up for your younger selves tonight. And please give this video a thumbs up if you thought it was helpful. Please subscribe to the channel. Click the little bell notification if you don't want to miss any videos. I record videos once a week, but I'm going to be recording them more often. I'm working with someone who's helping me with that. And it's been a goal for a couple years, and I just kept pushing the goal back because I was dealing with all this inner child, younger stuff. So now that I've taken care of the priority, which is me, then I can show up more fully for more people. So please subscribe. Please click the bell notification. Please share this video if you think it might be helpful for someone. Tell them where to fast forward to it. And for the love of all things sacred, give this video a thumbs up if it was helpful, because you know the thumbs downers are going to be like, what is a 90-minute video doing on there? Good Lord, that's what's she talking about? You know, like, it happens. I get hate mail, trust me. So thank you. I have such huge gratitude for each of you for showing up. Email Lisa at cptsdfoundation.org if you want to get welcomed into a free Facebook group. Go to cptsdfoundation.org and click on daily calls if you want to be a part of our daily calls and receive the support you deserve. We talk about stuff like this every day, 365 days a year. So thank you so much. And I'll see you next Monday, 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern. And remember, you guys are amazing. All right.